Hello and welcome to the very first episode of IUC Talks podcast, a new series where we bring global thinkers and scholars into conversation with the international university college community. I'm truly excited to open our series with a guest whose work sits at the heart of the understanding how today's economy really functions. Our guest is Professor Jan Toporowski. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly, a British economist and one of the leading contemporary scholars in his field. Professor Jan currently serves as a visiting professor of economics at King's College London, following a distinguished career as professor of economics and finance at South University of London. His academic journey includes research appointments at major institutions such as the University of Cambridge and the Bank of Finland. Professor Yan has published more than 350 books, papers, and articles. So, without further ado, welcome to the very first episode of the IUC Talks.
Thank you very much.
So, let's delve directly into the first question of this episode. So, can you explain in simple words where do company profits really come from in the economy, today's economy?
Yes, if you ask a businessman where their profits come from, then the businessman will tell you that uh, they do it from trading. In other words, selling goods and buying uh, goods, and with luck, the sales revenue uh, from selling goods would be larger than than the costs of producing those goods. Uh, the other way in which they make money is from financial operations, but this is marginal, except for some of the largest uh, companies. That's a simple and a very superficial answer. The real for society as a whole, for companies to make a profit, then you need to have a particular pattern of expenditure. In particular, in a capitalist economy, uh, the capitalists cannot make a profit from selling goods to the workers as a whole. Uh, they cannot do this because, in general, they can only get back in money terms what capitalists as a whole pay their workers. So selling more goods to capitalists is not really an effective way of generating profits for the economy as a whole. Uh, Capitalists and businesses can make a profit uh, if they sell beyond uh, the workers that they employ. Uh, in other words, if they make a profit from what businesses buy from each other in the form of investment goods and uh, in the form of uh, uh, business businessmen's own consumption or capitalist consumption, uh, which they do out of their income. So investment and capitalist consumption are the basic ways in which uh, uh, capitalists uh, can make a profit in a capitalist economy. Uh, However, in a modern economy, there's also foreign trade. There's also uh, 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 selling goods to the government sector, so that if there is a fiscal deficit, if the government spends more than it, it raises in taxes, then that is additional income for the business sector, additional profits. So fiscal deficit uh, adds to profits. And if all the businesses in an economy are selling more goods abroad than they are buying from abroad, then they accumulate profits in the form of revenue from foreign trade. So uh, this, in general, it's the macroeconomics that determine how profits are generated. Uh, it's more than just uh, buying and selling goods.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now let's move to the second question, which is quite interesting. So it's about remote work. So remote work has changed how companies spend money, especially after the pandemic. And by reducing office related costs and increasing spending on digital tools and technology. From a financial economics perspective, how do these shifts in corporate spending patterns influence company profits and investment behavior?
I think that the remote working is um, it is a feature of working, particularly after the COVID uh, pandemic, when it became quite widespread. The problem really with remote working is that it's unsuitable for factory production and construction, agriculture, mining, and so on. So there's a limited amount of work which can be done remotely from home. Yes, it does reduce the uh, uh, the costs of certain businesses, but it really it reduces office costs, and office costs are not that big a proportion of business costs because it's uh, really their management costs or coordination costs or marketing costs rather than the, um, the more general costs of production. There are, however, certain professions where remote working um, can effectively reduce costs. And these are professions, these activities such as journalism, certain types of consulting, even medical consultations can be done uh, remotely. Um, but really only up to a point. So I'm not sure that it can improve the profits of businesses um, by that much. Uh, if they do, it's more in the way of redistributing uh, existing um, uh, uh, existing profits, say from the construction sector, the sector that builds office blocks and finds that it now has empty office blocks because uh, uh, businesses no longer need such expansive offices.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So you're deeply interested in Kalecki. So what was Kalecki's main insight about profits, and why does it matter today from your perspective?
Uh, yes, Kalecki was a Polish economist who worked with John Maynard Keynes and produced a somewhat more radical um, but considerably more systematic uh, view of the way the capitalist economy, uh, a considerably more radical view of the capitalist economy than the one produced by Keynes. And in some respects, he was actually quite critical uh, of Keynes. Uh, his great insight, I think, was that um, businesses uh, could not make a profit unless businesses were prepared to spend. Uh, his theory was very nicely summed up by Nicholas Caldor, who said that Kalecki's theory of distribution uh, really amounts to saying that workers spend what they earn and capitalists earn as profits what they spend. And this, I think, uh, was quite a profound uh, insight uh, at the time it was made in the 1930s.
Thank you so much. So another question, how do you think changes in interest rates affect company profits?
Uh, there are various views on this. Uh, there's a general view among central bankers and among monetary economists that changes in the rate of interest uh, do uh, affect profits, but it's because changes in interest rates affect um, expenditure patterns in the economy. So, for example, a lowering of interest rates is believed to cause stock prices to rise, and therefore, if stock prices rise, there's a wealth effect by which uh, uh, consumers feeling more wealthy will start to spend more money. Uh, Similarly, businesses uh, faced with a lowering of interest rates uh, are believed to become more uh, 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 more optimistic uh, and are willing to borrow more money for investment in the economy, and that this will eventually give rise to increased profits.
So, yeah.
My own view is that uh, actually changes in the rate of interest uh, don't have that much effect on uh, what happens in the real economy. Uh, their impact on profits tends to be uh, mainly on whether the profits accrue to businesses as um, as interest revenue because they hold financial assets, um, or uh, or do they accrue? Do profits accrue as return on equity? Um, on on the whole, I don't think the rate of interest really has that much effect on uh, profits or what happens in the real economy. If anything, it may be an inverse relationship. There is the um, uh, uh, the relationship that was Keynes mentions that there was the relationship between the rate of economic activity and the rate of interest uh, is not inverse. They tend to move together. So higher interest rates uh, tend to be associated with an economic boom. They usually arise in an economic boom when both profits and um, and economic activity are increasing.
So another question. So how do global supply chains and exports influence profits in advanced economies?
Global supply chains and international production in general um, uh, do affect profits, but I think that they more have to do with the recording of profits in the sense that if you have a global supply chain uh, within one company, then the company can decide whether its profits are booked in the place where uh, raw materials are extracted, or whether it's the profits are booked in the place where uh, components are manufactured, or whether it's in the place in the country where um, the components are assembled, or whether it's finally in the country where uh, the final finished product is sold. So I think it has uh, it has that effect. Very often, this is done on the basis of taxation. This distribution of production or the value chains is done on the basis of um tax costs, but also uh, on the basis of where resources are cheaper and where even labor costs are cheaper.
But do you think globalization increase or decrease profitability?
No, I don't think that globalization increases or decreases um, profitability. What it does, I think, is it concentrates profitability much more in the large corporations that can globalize effectively. Small and medium-sized businesses uh, can't really globalize.
You think so? Okay, what if they do it on the basis of remote work? Mm.
I'm not even sure that the small and medium-sized businesses can um, globalize effectively remotely. Um, yes, there are businesses that uh, um, let's say even small businesses. You can set up a finance company, then go and live in Barbados and take advantage of tax benefits there and run your company from there. Um, I'm okay. I mean, this may affect the geographic distribution uh, of profits, because profits which you would otherwise have booked um, to a country with a high tax rate are now booked in a country in Barbados where the tax rate may be much lower. But uh, I'm it's really um, I see globalization more as being a feature of uh, business concentration. In other words, the increasing power and influence of the largest corporations, which can now make themselves even larger by buying up companies all over the world.
So, from your perspective, what risks do companies face today? I mean, the major risks they face today.
I think that the major um, risk that they face today is that having got used to a a globalization in which they could move freely and trade freely uh, across the world. This is made difficult because of the way in which um, the United States has led the way with um, with tariffs policy and with an aggressive um, business policy, aggressive policy of promoting uh, certain US businesses around the world. Uh, and the response to this has been for other countries to form trading blocs. So this breakdown of globalization into trading blocs um, is, I think, a, it's a major risk for the companies that have globalized.
But what reforms could improve the relationship between finance and the real production?
What reforms could improve the relation between finance and real production? I presume real production, you mean the production of useful uh, goods and services, um, useful in the sense of having a use value as opposed to financial services, which don't really have a proper use value. I think that um, uh, the stabilization of financial markets would benefit the real economy because it would provide more stable sources of finance uh, and make business less dependent on unstable markets. I think this is uh, the main um, uh, benefit that could be obtained from financial reform. This is why I'm very much in favour of making financial stability uh, and yield curve control uh, a reform for or a target, part of the mandate for central banks. I don't think it will actually do the whole job because it would still leave uh, the real economy at the mercy the business cycle, but it would take some of the marginal, relatively marginal nuisance of the of financial instability.
Thank you so much, Professor Jan, for joining us on this very first episode of the IUC Talks. You have given us a powerful foundation on how companies can make profits today. So, to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. Looking forward to bringing you more thinkers in our next episode. Thank you.